Imagine, it's a hot summer day and you've been playing outside with your friends. You go inside the house, craving a nice cold glass of water. But what happens when you turn on the tap? You realize that you no longer have the luxury to access safe drinking water right at your fingertips. This is the situation for thousands of people in Flint today. Allow me to share with you the story of one particular woman who inspires me. Leanne Walters is a former Flint resident and mother of 4. She was one of the few individuals who brought attention to the Flint Water Crisis. It was her whistleblowing and persistence that brought national attention to the issue and sparked the chain of independent researches. Every member of Leanne's household started to suffer from unusual medical problems, such as skin rashes, hair loss, and stomach aches, ever since Flint made the switch in their water source in April 2014. After much protesting and complaining, a city official was finally sent to test the water in Leanne's home. And the results were horrifying. The test came back showing that the water in Leanne's home contained 27 times the amount of lead that is legal. The test also came back showing that all 4 of Leanne's children had been exposed to lead, and her 3-year-old son now has lead poisoning. I cannot imagine how devastating this news must have been for Leanne to hear as a mother. Today, we will explore how the Flint water crisis is not just an issue of a lack of clean water, by first looking at how lead was getting into the water of Flint, the effects of lead on humans, and how poverty is involved with the issue. First, let's take a look at why lead was getting into the water of Flint. Flint made the switch in their water source in April 2014. This was because the city wanted to save money. The original plan was to connect a new pipeline from Lake Huron to Flint, which would save the city $4 million per year. But this pipeline was going to take 2 years to be built. So in the meantime, Flint decided to use Flint River as their water source. But the problem with the water of Flint River is that it is very corrosive because of its high chloride content. This means that when the water goes through the pipes, it destroys the inner coating on them. And this inner coating is what stops lead from getting into the water. Since the inner coating is now gone, lead can easily leak into the water. Now, there is too much lead in the water of Flint, and the consequences of lead on humans is dire. Exposure to lead can cause irreversible neurological damage to infants and children. Lead in children can cause lower IQ, ADHD, and more impulsive and aggressive behavior. Many of these problems are lifelong. Even very low levels of lead in the bloodstream of children can have dramatic effects on them. According to the CDC, or Center for Disease Control and Prevention, there is no demonstrated safe amount of lead in the bloodstream. Children are far more sensitive to lead in their blood than adults, but lead poisoning in adults can cause lethargy, depression, and a slower reaction time. But adults do require a larger amount of lead in their bloodstream to produce these effects. In pregnant women, lead can cause miscarriages and a reduced growth of fetus. The effects of lead on humans show how tragic the Flint water crisis really is and how ultimately the city is playing with the lives of their people. There have been many cases like Flint's all across America. Recently, Sebring, Ohio has been in the news for a leading crisis of their own. But there is some significance to why Flint is getting all the attention nationally. The Flint Water Crisis highlights concerns about race, poverty, and politics in the U.S. A majority of Flint's population is African American, with over 41% of its population living below the poverty line. This leads many to believe that there was systematic racism going on behind the scenes. Flint isn't the first city to have lead in their water, but their crisis was completely man-made and could have been avoided. Unlike other cases where it took years to build up the damage by using lead in paint or gasoline, Flint was the total opposite. If emergency managers had just decided to not stop using the water from Detroit and switch over to the water of Flint River, 8,000 children would not be at risk for lifelong health problems. The Flint water crisis shows us how the interests of the poor are being compromised. Cutting spending has a long-lasting negative effect on the poor. Flint families need to have safe and reliable drinking water by replacing their lead service pipes. According to CNN on January 29, 2016, it is estimated that it will cost $800 million to replace Flint's water system. Although the damage has been done, many steps are already in action to repair it. It started off with President Obama signing an emergency declaration, giving way to $5 million in aid to Flint with a 25% match required by the state. Obama went even further at the end of January 2016 by giving another $80 million in aid to Flint. In a recent interview with Detroit News, Obama said, "It is unacceptable that our children have to worry about the water they are drinking." We also need an in-depth investigation of the Flint water crisis to prevent it from happening again. Imagine yourself in the same situation as the residents of Flint. Wouldn't you want to know there are others out there to help you? I strongly encourage all of you to help contribute to the families of Flint. Many organizations are accepting bottled water and monetary donations, such as the American Red Cross. All of these organizations are providing bottled water, water filters, water testing kits, and education to the residents of Flint so they know how to deal with their water in the proper fashion. If you cannot afford to make a monetary donation, you can explore different volunteer options by going to helpforflint.com. Some of these options include distributing bottled water, collecting data from homes around Flint, or working at a food bank. So today, we looked at how lead was getting into the water of Flint, the effects of lead on humans, and how poverty is involved with the issue. I hope now that you realize that Flint is not just an issue about a lack of clean water. So next time you go to get that nice cold glass of water from the tap, I hope that you realize that not everyone has that luxury right at their fingertips.